What's up, guys? We're back with another McFarlane Toys review, taking a look at another Spawn figure from this first wave, this first push of retail Spawn figures that aren't Mortal Kombat, aren't Kickstarter related, and today we're taking a look at the Redeemer. So a little bit on the flip side of the Spawn stuff, and adds a little bit of a change up to this particular line. So I'm excited to take a look at this guy just because, well, he's likely going to stand out from the crowd because of, well, look at the colors on this guy. So he comes in the same kind of box that the Gunslinger and the Raven Spawn come in. So not my favorite packaging, as I've said already, but it looks all right here as far as someone maybe wanting to keep him in the box. You've got him there in the window, yellow Spawn logo down there on the bottom, some really solid artwork on him on the side panel, and then you've got a small product shot on the other, and then the back of the box, just like the rest of this line so far, has a large product shot of the figure with nothing else. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Redeemer figure. So a little bit of a different figure in comparison to everything else in this first wave of Spawn figures. You know, he's not a Spawn, and he's not some big monstrous demon either. He's got a very different color scheme and a very garish look, really, when you take into consideration pretty much the theme of these figures. This big blue and gold suit of armor is definitely going to stand out. He is pretty good too, all things considered. He definitely has some hindrances here and there in the articulation department. I do think there might be some sort of an issue with the ankles on this figure as well, but let's do it. Let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. You've got a head that can look up. He can look down really good. You do have some nice tilt there, like really good. And then you've got full rotation, but you kind of have to make him look up to go over the collar of his armor there. Arms go out at the shoulders, and this armor is attached to the arm, not the shoulder, so it will go up and over like that, which is really nice. Of course, the arms go out, and they go backwards far enough, but you're going to hit the wings if they're kind of out like that, but then they can rotate all the way around. There is a slight butterfly joint. You've got your bicep swivel, of course, double jointed elbows, so really good range there. And then we've got our ball hinges at the wrist, so up and down any direction, however you turn that hinge, and then you've got rotation. We've got a diaphragm cut at the torso, a little bit of bob back and forth, side to side, but it's mostly a rotating joint. Unless you sort of arc it forward, then you can get him to sort of cut across the ab section, and then he does go backwards really, really, really far. That's really nice, actually. He doesn't go forward too much, and that's mostly due to the design of the armor. So this piece right here prohibits the abs from going forward. This piece here prohibits the diaphragm from going forward, and then you can tilt about that far. But he has, like, that's crazy back. That's really good, actually. Legs, of course, go pretty much all the way out. Not all the way, but pretty close. They kick forward about this far. They go backwards a little bit. There is a little shimmy at the thigh. It's not a thigh cut. He doesn't even have one on this leg where they could have cut one. We've seen them do that before. But he has a little bit of a twist. Of course, if you take the leg all the way out, you can manipulate that joint however you want, but that's not useful. And then we've got double jointed knees. They go back that far. And then we've got our ankles, which are, of course, the balls, so they rotate, but they also hinge forward and backward. And then you've got your rocker, and you've got toe articulation as well. I find these ankles to be a little loose. I've seen some folks saying that they think the wings on this guy cause him to be imbalanced, and while I do think that might be a slight issue because of course he does have a bunch of stuff hanging off his back, the ankles on this figure do not help him at all. They are a little bit loose, and they want to make him fall over. He of course comes with a stand, like all Spawn McFarlane figures do, but it's just going to go with him when he falls. So I'm thinking this might be the point of failure because this is slightly ratcheted, but at the same time, like, it moves very, very freely. I'm probably making it worse doing that, but you know what it's going to do. As far as the wings go, they are able to hinge in and out, and then of course they rotate, so you can hinge them up and down and in and out and rotate side to side, so you can get him to sort of kick backwards like that, which of course is definitely going to throw him off balance because you've got a whole mess of feathers hanging off of him at that point. But I find when you've got him sort of just tucked in and sort of splayed outwards that way, he is fairly easy to get standing. You just got to watch out and play the balance game when it comes to those ankles and then sort of the center of gravity, because again, there's a lot of extra plastic on this guy. They are pretty heavy, but I do think if there's a point of failure, it's going to be down at these ankles. Aesthetically, though, I am, well, really happy, honestly. There's maybe one thing that I truly don't care for on this figure, but for the most part, this is really nicely done. I think he looks really good. Now, there's obviously going to be folks out there that could easily identify things that maybe need to be a little bit more detailed, and I'm sure there's places where another hit of a different type of gold or maybe some silver or something like that on a lot of this like inlay filigree kind of detail would make him pop. But for, thinking a retail, $25-ish figure or whatever this thing cost, I do think he looks really good. There is a ton of detail all over the figure, from the cross guard on the mask, the spikes. You've got the detail on the inside and the outside of this armor. You can see it kind of back in there a little bit. There is some detail on the inside of the armor and the outside. You've got the asymmetrical design with like the crosses that run the thigh, and then all of this detail that runs down. It's just a lot of different stuff, different layers of armor on that gold, and the suit itself is textured too. So the torso, the thighs, the arms, there is varying types of a suit here. So he's got like plating on the outside, but on the inside it is a textured sort of mesh fabric type pattern almost, and I think it looks really good. It catches the light too. You can sort of feel it, you can of course see it, and then he's even got this little shock of green right there just to sort of make it pop, and it stands out a little bit because of course that's a very unique color amongst everything else that's going on with this figure. He also has some nice size to him, so he's of course a 7-inch scale figure being in this particular line, but he's beefy. He's very, very thick on the top basically, and I think he looks really good. I'm a big fan of this particular design. There are a number of different looks they could have gone with for a Redeemer, but I think this one's pretty cool, and specifically in the sense that he's going to stand out amongst the various Spawn in this wave, and then of course Clown, Violator. He's going to look different because he's bright and he's vibrant at the same time, and of course tons of gold metallic in various sort of finishes, because the gold on the helmet is brighter than the armor and things of that nature. The one thing that I don't really like about this figure is the hands. He has trigger finger hands. He doesn't come with a gun. He has a sword. I don't like when they do that, specifically because I don't know if these are unique hands to him or not. I mean, they are definitely kind of specific to this suit. I don't know if we have spiked hands elsewhere in the line or on the DC side or anything like that that they could have reused. But if these aren't reuse, I don't see any point in them having trigger fingers. Granted, maybe you want to have him hold a gun, but he comes with a sword. He should have two regular gripping hands at the very least. So that's just a pet peeve of mine. And then of course we do get like the big focal point. If it's not the big blue gold suit, it's the fact that this guy has these massive wings, and they are humongous. They are essentially as tall as the figure themselves, save for maybe half an inch or so, and they have some serious wingspan on them too. As we see in a lot of cases with figures that have wings, they do play a role in throwing him off balance. I don't think it's too bad here. He's very easy to get him to stand, as long as you watch those ankles, for me anyway. But I think the detail on these is really nicely done. I'm sure somebody can, maybe zhuzh them up a little bit and throw like some black wash in there, or paint them an entirely different color, like the Chase variant ones that are green, which I think look really cool, but I'm not a big fan of the Chase aspect of this line. But I think the wings look fantastic. They very much catch the light. You've got varying shades of kind of like a whitewash that's all over these. So they're super white up at the top and it fades down. There's a little bit of a gray shadow in the middle almost. It's a little heavier in the middle, and then it gets a little bit lighter towards the bottom and then a lot whiter at the top. But he looks really good with these wings. I don't think I would ever intend to display him otherwise, despite the fact, of course, that it does take up a lot of real estate. But it's a very imposing look, and it's a very unique look. And again, amongst the other figures, he's going to stand out, and these wings are definitely a reason why. Now, as far as accessories goes, again, not counting the wings, all Redeemer has is this sword, which is cool, but it does have kind of like a plain factor to it. It has a lot of detail on it. Like, there's a ton of sculpt from the very tip of the blade all the way down to the end of the hilt. There's just a ton of detail sculpted into this. There's texture all up and down the blade itself on both sides, all over it, and it looks really cool. It's got a little bit of a wash to kind of dirty it up a bit, bring out some of that sculpt. I do think that maybe some hits of silver here would maybe bring out some of these like bits and bobs that are all over it. So it's kind of plain, but it's also super detailed at the same time, if that makes any sense. It's really big, goes up to almost his chin, so it's pretty long. It is kind of a flexible material though. Mine's kind of warped out of the package. You can see it sort of like veers off to the side there, so you might have to heat it up and kind of reshape it, and I'm sure it'll eventually stay. It sort of works in the temporary sense when you sort of meld it over from one side to the other. So it is pretty cool, but it is not maybe without the sense of lacking when it comes to paint. And then of course, you know, as usual, we do get the always ever-present Spawn stand, and this might be useful for a change, you know, because the wings do kind of imbalance him a little bit, but at the same time, like I said, the ankles on this particular figure are loose enough to the point where if he does fall over, he's taking the stand with him anyway, so it's going to be yet another instance of me not using that thing. So yeah, overall, I really do like this figure. If anything, I have a couple of relatively minor gripes, honestly. I think that the trigger finger hands for a character that wields a sword is just ridiculous. I don't like it, and it's not a thing for me. I wish that he had regular gripping hands, or at least one of each would have been better than 2 trigger finger hands. And then of course, I do think he has some balance issues, specifically at the ankles. They seem to me a little bit too free moving. They don't seem super loose, but they're also not really tight either. And again, that stand is not going to help you in a situation like this. Overall though, he does move well otherwise, and I do think he looks fantastic. He's a really cool design. He's very different. He's going to stand out on your shelf. He's got a very bright and vibrant color scheme that's going to stand out alongside these demons in this line, alongside these Spawn, and he's just a cool looking figure. He's a big blue, gold, angelic knight with monstrous wings. It's a cool thing. It's going to look good on your shelf. So that's going to do it for this look at the McFarlane Toys Spawn Redeemer. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.